Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us for another one of our Synchro webinars. This month, we are excited to talk about all things social marketing, reputation management, and I know you are all going to love this session because it has tons of real-world examples and very actionable tips for all of you. My name is Erin Zabarak. I have to start by saying every single human in my house is sick, has been sick for what feels like an eternity. So I am thrilled to be with you today because it means I get a break from being out there with all of them. So thank you for being here. I'm going to do my best to keep my energy up, and I am very excited to be joined by one of our Synchro social marketing specialists, Vanessa Garcia. Vanessa has over 14 years of social media experience. She works with dealers every day on their social content and reputation management. She's amazing and so excited to share her with you all today. So Vanessa, thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Awesome. We also want to give a special shout out to Liz Cordero, another one of our social media specialists. She isn't going to be presenting today, but helped to put together a ton of the content you're going to see. So big thank you to Liz. All right, let me get through the logistics and then we're going to get right into it. So we are recording the webinar today and the deck is available in the handout section of your GoToWebinar toolbar. As always, we want you to ask your questions along the way. You'll see a question section in there in that toolbar. Tell us what you want to know. Give us your own examples. Share your Facebook link. We want to share all the goodies with all of our friends here on the webinar today. I will say I am driving to PowerPoint, so I might be a little slower on getting to those questions, but I promise we will work to answer all of those questions either live on the session or I'll follow up later today. All right, I think that's everything. Let's take a look at the agenda today. So we are going to cover social media, then reputation management. There's a little bleed over because, of course, all things social is truly your reputation as well. But we're going to talk specifically about content strategy, reaching those new audiences, lots of examples, like I've said, and then managing your reviews on the social platforms. Then specific to reputation, we're going to get into how you really market your brand, best practices for responding to all the reviews. Yes, all of them, not just the bad ones. So I think that's it, Liz. I'm going to go ahead and get you started. I know everybody's here because they know social and reputation are important, but give us a little bit to start with. Why do we care about all this?
Yeah, so basically, social media and reputation management, they're two of the most important places where you're going to be growing your brand identity online, right? And one of the best ways to do that is to actually understand the automotive buyer journey. So when we take a look at the top of the funnel, shoppers are going to be doing research on makes and models for different vehicles that they're interested in, right? Then they're going to be going online. They're going to search for local dealerships to visit and do a test drive and see, what kind of local offers that you have. Once they're actually getting ready to buy, they're going to be taking a look at your reputation, right, of your dealership, because they want to know what kind of experience they're going to have before they actually go in and visit. And during that search, some of your social media is also going to pop up, right? So they're also going to be taking a look at that and, again, seeing what you're all about. So when we're taking a look, a little bit more in depth with social media and why it's important, especially when it comes to reputation, a really important thing to point out is that 80% of car buyers are likely to turn to social media for car buying advice more than a sales associate, right? So they're going online, they're checking out reviews, they're seeing what other people are saying about their experience, and they're even checking out, influencer blogs and YouTubes and stuff like that to see what they have to say about a particular, vehicle. So that means that people are using social media to research vehicles and get other people's opinions when it comes to purchasing a specific vehicle. And that's why it's so important to control the messaging on your social media platforms and your reputation channels as well. So when it comes to, putting together your social media strategy, there's a few, steps in involved in creating that, right? What you want to do is you want to make sure that it's aligned with your business goals as well as your advertising and the messaging that you have on your website, right? The foundation of your social media strategy is going to be centered around your content. So these are going to be the things that you're posting on your page, right? That's why we have it kind of like on the bottom left, because it serves as your foundation of your social media strategy. You want to give people a reason to follow you online and visit your page, right? So you want to think of building a community where you offer value through information, education, and even some, infotainment, right? You don't necessarily want to get too, salesy with it, because that's what some of your, social advertising is for, right? Buyers are going to be, researching for vehicles that they're interested in. So you might as well provide some of that information on your page, because they're going to be searching for it anyway. And it also sets you up to be perceived as, a knowledgeable and reliable source in your industry and, your community. So we'll get into some of, that content later on in some of those examples. The next step you want to take at this is, definitely take a look at your posts and see what's performing the best, right? Because you want to go ahead and start making some, data-driven decisions based on what people are responding to in terms of the content that you're creating. And that's where these boosted posts, come into mind. And it's basically just throwing a few ad dollars at some of the posts that have performed the best, so that you can basically introduce not only your post, but your page to new audiences in your local market, right? And then once you've established, a constant flow of content rotation on your page, then you can focus on your social advertising and the specific, sales and service offers that you have on there. One of the most important things I don't think dealers, realize when they're running their social media advertising is that those ads are actually increasing the page's reach and impressions by the thousands, right? Because you're investing in, a certain amount to get these ads viewed, and people can, click on the ad, but they can also click on your Facebook page or your Instagram page, right? So you also want to make sure that you know what your page looks like when you have those ads, up and running, right? So that's why it's really important to have a steady income, not a steady income, a steady flow. We all want a steady income, right?
Heck yeah.
Of content on your page, because your handle's going to be showing up to thousands of people, and they're going to click on it, and you want to make sure that you're giving them a good impression.
Yeah, but it's good points. Steady income for sure. Hopefully this will give all our dealers steady income. But I've heard a lot of dealers will jump right to advertising and say,
Yeah.
yep, I'm ready to throw money at the problem. Let's go, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that content and that organic presence already built, where are you driving your traffic to? Same thing we always recommend. Get your house in order, get your website cleaned up before you look at driving more traffic. I'm glad you covered boosted posts, though. That's a question that we get a lot is it worth it? Is it something that I should do? So a few examples I think you're going to have throughout the session. And I've said I love examples. Everybody loves them. So here's 3 different versions of how this path would go for the dealer.
Yeah, so this is basically an example of a dealer who was focusing on selling trucks, right? So that was their main goal. They have a fairly good amount of content, on their page that talks about the Silverado, which is what they wanted to move, right? So if you're taking a look under where it says social media content, this particular post takes them to a YouTube video that then shows their audience how they can create an appointment through Chevy My Way with a specialist and get kind of like a live walk around and, have all of their questions answered and stuff like that, right? Then when we're actually looking at their posts and seeing, what performed the best, Another one that performed really well was this post that we created for the multi-flex tailgate, right? It performed really well organically. So things that are performing really well organically with, engagement, reach, impressions, those are the ones that we want to throw some ad dollars to, right? Because if they're performing well organically, they're more likely to perform well if you add some advertising to that. So this one we boosted, and basically what we're able to do is just increase the visibility of this post to their local market, right? So people who are not following their page but are interested in trucks are going to see, this post, right? Then once you get into, the advertising, then you can see here they have very specific offers on the Silverado, how much it is, if there's any incentives, how much you can get it for, right? So then you see there's actually, two different opportunities for the user to click on, right? They can either click on one of these, ads where it says shop now, and it'll be taken, back to their inventory, and they can take a look at, what they have going on there. Or up at the top where it has the name of their page, they can click on their Facebook page too, and go back and visit them and see what they're all about and check out the content that they have, right? So it's important to note that, if you're running these and if you are doing social ads, not just on Facebook, but those ads are probably showing up on Instagram too, right? So again, take a look and see what your page looks like so that you just have a good, like basically user experience and a good first impression, right? Because you're investing all of this money to have, thousands of people have the opportunity to check out your page. So, make sure that you have a constant, flow of content and it doesn't look like a dead page, right? Especially with Instagram, sometimes, these sponsored posts will show up. I'll click on their Instagram page out of curiosity, and then I'll see they haven't had a post in like 2 years, So you don't want to have like that kind of impression. You want to look like you're active, right? You have stuff going on. You want to let people know what you're all about.
It's
And
like
that's
your
basically
personal
how the whole
profile. You don't
strategy
want to
works.
look.
Yeah.
You don't want to look like a dud. Come on, you got to look like you're out there having the fun. How much of this is DIY for a dealer? How much can a dealer do themselves versus having to work with an agency? Specific, I think, to the advertising component.
That's a good question. It just really depends on what your goals are. From an advertising, standpoint, it's definitely something that you can DIY, you can do yourself, right? But you really want someone to kind of monitor those ads and see how they're performing and adjust any, targeting and budgeting, as necessary, right? So it's really good to have a specialist on your team since this is what they're doing all the time, every day.
Yeah.
So they know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's like everything we've covered where if you have a dedicated person in store and that's all they do, that's very unlikely. So think about your day to day, think about how much you can manage on your own. But we always like to address, everything's DIY depending on how much you want to DIY. Yeah, I don't know. I got lost in that. Okay. So Give us some examples of some of these organic posts. So I love the community posts. Talk about some of these.
Yeah, and and the same goes for your organic content, right? There's definitely, content that you can create on your own that's really, really easy to do. I always like to say everything is content and content is everywhere, right? It's just really documenting what's going on, right? And the medium that you're going to put it in. So these are actually, posts that dealers created themselves. One of the things I also like to say about social media is to be social on social media, right? Show faces, show pictures of people, show videos of people, right? You don't, want to just have a constant feed of, model vehicles and price and model vehicles and price because, well, that's what your website's for, right? So here, if you have anything going on in the community, let everyone know, right? Take pictures of that, post, photos, videos. This particular dealer, they do a lot of work in the community, especially their general manager. So they did something where they, went out to the ballpark. The general manager got to, throw a ball on the field. There was an event associated to that, all that stuff. They shared it. And this was actually their most popular post for the whole year, right? Out of all of the posts that they've done, the most popular post was just the GM and his family, out on the field throwing a ball, and it has nothing to do with selling cars, right?
Which
Other
is good.
example,
It's authentic. It's authentic though.
yes,
I think that's what's
yes,
important. It's not staged. You can truly tell the dealers who are really out there. And I mean, it is a little bit, maybe not with the pirates, but scratch my back, you'll scratch yours, where okay, we'd love to feature, the work that we're doing. If you have a website, can we put our information on yours too? So lots of valuable there. And then we see this on the right all the time is happy customer posts, right? That's tried and
yes.
true.
Yes, these ones perform like so good, and it's literally the easiest thing that you can post on your page that you're almost guaranteed to get engagement, a lot of engagement on it, right? And it's the easiest thing you can do, right? Just, have a conversation with your sales team, you know, ask them to get permission from, their customers. Hey, can we snap a quick pic and, post it on our Facebook page? And just, you don't have to do them in real time, right? Because that can get tedious. Just take a bunch and then just batch them out and post them, all throughout the month. And it's the easiest thing. Hey, congratulations to so and so, they just purchased their, new truck. We can't wait for all of the adventures, they're going to have. And the same goes for, especially holidays are coming up right now. So if you have anything going on, like a toy drive, like a Toys for Tots, if your location is a drop-off center, create an event for that, right? Let people know
Yeah.
beforehand that they can go ahead and do that. And then, post pictures, right? People coming in, dropping off their toys, and remind people of that. So, you definitely want to be perceived as a good community partner. And it also, sets you up as reminding people that, like, yeah, you are a local business, and a lot of these dealerships, they're family owned, and, operated and stuff like that. And so they have that similar type of atmosphere and feel in their dealership. So just, reflect that on your page a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. With the new car purchase, I love to say, here, Mr. Customer, give me your phone. I'll take a picture of you with your new car. Then you can post it and you can just tag
Yes.
us in it because that's just as valuable. So
Yes.
Mary wants to know as we move to the next slide, is there a sweet spot for number of posts per day or per week? What do you think?
We like to do about 5 posts per week. And how you spread that out just really depends. You'll have to kind of test a few things because it can depend on, your demographic and the platform. So that's why it's really good to, sometimes go back and take a look at your analytics and see when are people online, right?
Yeah.
So once you know that, then you know when you can post and how much you need to post. But generally about 5 times, a week for Facebook, maybe 3 to 5 for Instagram. It just really depends.
Awesome. And you've got more examples here of posts. And while you're talking through these, you just mentioned Instagram. So is it the same post that you recommend pushing? I know, Facebook will
Yeah.
do stories and then Insta does the reel. So I think I got that right. So talk about like where and how to post.
Yeah, so basically on Instagram, you kind of have two different feeds, right? You have, a horizontal feed and a vertical feed. So you have stuff coming in this way and stuff coming in that way, right? So there's really a lot. Um, it's okay to definitely share content that you're posting on Facebook on your Instagram page, right? Because people, might not be on one platform, or they might spend more time on, the other. And then from there, you'll also get a feel of which content is performing better. Um, if you don't have a whole lot of time to, you know, schedule your feed out and post all of that stuff, then definitely just take some time to work on, either some reels or some Instagram stories. Those are the easiest things that you can do. Um, they perform really well, right? Because you don't have to have like a super, big budget or, fancy camera or anything like that. Just things that are real and authentic. And if it's just, you and your iPhone, showing up with a truckload of new vehicles that came in, like this example right here, that's good enough, you know.
Yeah.
So it just, yeah, kind of really depends. But I would say
Yeah. And
definitely
I
just
love the
focus on stories.
copy.
Yeah. Hmm.
I love the copy in that example on the right. Santa sleigh has nothing on this carrier full of clothes. Like, that's so cute. It's just fun. Make it fun. That's really the story of this. Video walk arounds, you hit the nail on the head. It doesn't have to be professional. You don't have to bring the drone in. Like, just take the video and talk about the things that people care about. So I am going to move us to the next slide. Just I want to make sure we're okay on time, but talk more about inventory posts. Because yes, we got to be real careful about how salesy we are, but spoiler alert, we're here to sell cars. So tell
Yeah.
us about some of these posts featuring those models and how we get that inventory in front of people.
Yeah, so here we basically have an example of an inventory, type post. Again, with this truck, we're not basically saying, hey, come get this truck for, 3.9% APR or anything like that, right? People also want to know, what is this vehicle going to do for them? How is it going to fit into their life, right? So you can just include a few quick, bullet points of some of the features that they have, that vehicle has, and then, hey, here's a link to our inventory. Go ahead and check it out. Another thing that you want to do is educate your customers, right? Especially on future vehicle purchases. We're starting to sell a lot of EVs now, right? And a lot of customers still don't know a lot of information about electric vehicles, right? About charging, about, what the difference is, how much, wattage they need and all that stuff. So it's a really good opportunity for you to educate your customers on electric vehicles. So sprinkling something throughout like this, maybe, once a week or once every other week on electric vehicle, information is really good too, because again, it also sets you up as, a knowledge leader in your industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Melissa just asked, it's like she could see what was coming up. Any service suggestions? So I think that's really a good reminder to us all is, yes, we want to sell cars, but the majority of people who end up following your page are because they became customers, hopefully. And so now it's how do you retain that business and keep it running? So local offers is one, but I know you're going to hit on this, but talk specifically about service as you go.
Yeah, so service is definitely important. You always, want to give your service department love too, because, you really hit the nail when you said retain, right? You did a good, like your sales team did a good job selling the vehicle. Now you want to retain those customers, right? And the best way you can do that is through your service. They're always going to need, an oil change, some kind of service, tune up, tire rotation, whatever, right? They're always going to need that for the life of their vehicle. So you do want to make sure that you're maintaining some service messages throughout your social media channels as well. And that could be what kind of service offers that you have, service coupons. It could even be quick videos or quick reels of, hey, when you come in, you also get this nice car wash and you get your car detailed, and here's a picture of our service team working hard for you, fixing them up, making them nice, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, you definitely want to give them some love too. So yes, share your
Yeah.
service
A
specials on your
few
page.
a few fun ones I've seen recently are, we just changed the clocks. And so it was a poll and it said, okay, whose clock is right and whose is wrong in their car. It was about 50-50. Things like that. I've seen posts of, here's what a dirty air filter looks like. Here's what a clean one looks like. Who's ready to come breathe in the cool, good air. So
Yeah,
things like that
yeah.
make it fun, personal. But I love the educational component. Accessories you've got on here. And don't forget, just schedule service. It's probably been a while when,
Mhm.
just reminding people. So all good stuff. So what other local offers? Let's go ahead and move forward. So this, I know we've got some, raffles and stuff. I want you to talk through any rules, anything that dealers need to look out for to not get themselves in trouble when it comes to doing things like this.
Yeah, so if you're doing any kind of, raffles, enter to win, sweepstakes, you definitely want to use the word sweepstakes more, right? It can't be something where they have to have some kind of talent to enter to win. It just has to be a straight up enter to win, submit your name and information, and a random drawing will be done for a winner. So you can't call them like contests, right? It's better to just set them up as, a sweepstakes or a raffle, so that, you don't get tangled up in any kind of,
Sure.
contest specifics.
Right.
Yeah. And then, other things that you want to include is, what are the messages that are on your website, right? So those messages, bring them out to your social channels as well, right? So if you're doing a lot of reservations for EVs, for new models that are coming out, include those on your page as well as any kind of, like rewards programs. Especially those rewards programs that are tied to services, right? Let people know that you have them and what the benefits are when they sign up for those and bring their vehicle in for service. And then if you also offer any kind of like discounts for veterans, first responders, educators, college grads, stuff like that, those you also want to include. And then think about it, in terms of seasonality and locality as well, right? So maybe post more of your college grad discounts between, spring and fall. And if you live in an area that has, maybe it's close to like a military base or you have, a lot of veterans and stuff like that, definitely include more of those messages in your social media as well.
Yeah, and we haven't hit on it yet, and I'm surprised. OEM content. So most of the OEMs have content available to you, specifically around rewards programs. Make sure you're leveraging that. I know Nissan has some fantastic social posts that they will do for you. So make sure you're working all of that into your content strategy as well, whether you take advantage of it or you don't. You just want to make sure that you're aware of all the info, so that you've got the best stuff posted. And then I love that we're going to talk about boosted posts again, because I think it's a huge opportunity for those dealers who are doing a good job with their organic content. So what else do we need to know?
Yeah, so here we basically have a few examples of these tend to be kind of like our top posts that we boost. They tend to work really well over a large area of our dealers, right? So one is basically this like used car post, and the other one is sell us your vehicle post, right? Now for the used cars, this one is different, right? Like usually we see a lot of, hey, we have this specific used vehicle and it's this make and model and it has, this many miles on it and stuff like that. Those are definitely good, to post too. If you are doing anything like that and you do want to boost them, you'll probably need to do them in real time, right? As you're getting them along, because that kind of inventory moves very quickly. But this one is more like a general type of post, like, hey, as a reminder, we have good quality used vehicles too. If you can't find what you want, on the lot for a new vehicle, maybe we have it in used and you can save yourself some money on there as well, right? So that's an example of that we did, just basically throwing some ad dollars to it. And again, showing people this post who are not followers to this page, who live in a geographic, location to this dealership and would be interested in that, right? And the same for, the whole sell us your vehicle thing, right? Dealers are always, looking to buy vehicles, right, to include in their pre-owned inventory. And the process, to sell the vehicle can be a lot, smoother and easier if you're doing it with a dealership versus, doing it on, Craigslist or somewhere else and, hoping they take, the registration papers to the DMV and, stuff like that. It's going to get taken care of properly if you do it at the dealership. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Okay, we've got more examples here. I told y'all there were tons of examples. Vanessa came correct. So, all right, what else? What's on this one?
Yeah, so these two are a little different. So again, in some of the model inventory type posts that we like to include, we'll include a mix of, vehicle like walkarounds, model reviews, right? And we don't mean like 5-star model reviews. We mean like a review from, like maybe Car and Driver or, something like that. Like how did this vehicle perform, or a specific, influencer on YouTube, right? So This particular post right here is about the Encore GX, which is, again, something that this dealer also wanted to move. It performed really well, so we threw some, ad dollars to it. One of the really great things about these boosted posts is you can also edit the link that you're going to include in that post, right? So organically, when you first look at it, it's like, well, the link's taking you to their YouTube page. I don't want to spend the ad dollars sending all this traffic to this person's YouTube page. I want to have them take a look at my inventory, right? So as you're setting it up, you can actually edit it, and you can include an inventory link in here. So this particular post, you have the person has three options to click on something. One is their Facebook page, right? The next one, this blue line in here, that's their inventory page. And then if they want to check out the review on YouTube, they can click on that as well, right? And then the metric that we're basically measuring is the actual link that we included when we were setting up, that ad. So here, we were able to increase more, reach for this particular, page and post to people who are not following them, but are interested in, small size SUVs in their local market. Another example is service posts. These service posts perform really well. You were just mentioning, go to the OEM site and see what kind of assets they have, and they'll have stuff, created for you already. So, GM, they created a lot of different video service messages, and we know that video definitely performs a little bit better on social media than some of the more static posts, although sometimes it can fluctuate. So a lot of these open road events have been performing really, really well. So we'll just take a look which service offer perform the best, right, among those posts, and then just throw some ad dollars to that too. And then same thing, you're just showing more people in your local market, what you have to offer.
Yeah. And Andrew, echoed your sentiments about how, fun it is to try to sell your car on Craigslist. So make sure you include safety messages for that vehicle acquisition strategy.
Yeah.
I commented, everybody wants to sell their car themselves until they try to actually do it. And then suddenly it's not quite the exciting endeavor that they thought. Okay,
right. And then you learn you're still the owner.
There you go. It sounds like you have a horror story. I'm going to have to pick that up from you. So we're going to talk a lot about reputation management across many platforms, but specific to Facebook, what should we be focusing on? What do dealers need to worry about or just, be aware of?
Yeah, so basically the final part of your social media strategy is going to be responding to your Facebook reviews, right? Just making sure that you have someone who is actually, checking them out. You are reading them, you are responding to them, and you're understanding, some of, maybe it's some of the issues that are coming up. One of the most important goals of your social media and reputation strategy is to positively control the messaging about your brand reputation, okay? And one of the best ways to do that is to just respond to your Facebook reviews, because they're basically, the new word of mouth, right? People want to know what kind of experience they're going to have before they go ahead and visit you. So you want to make sure that you respond to all of your reviews, whether or not they're positive or negative, right? Because your response rate is also a reflection of your brand. People want to see that you're actually taking the time and that you actually care about responding to these reviews. So when you do, you want to make sure that you're coming off as, transparent and authentic in your responses. You also, definitely want to have a dedicated, person who is going to be responding to these reviews, right? Just so that there's no surprises of, oh, we have all these reviews that are not answered, who's taking care of them, stuff like that. And not just the negative ones, but the positive ones too. The positive ones can actually help encourage more positive reviews, funny enough.
Yeah.
So when you get more of an influx of positive reviews, it can actually help push some of those negative ones down. So that's why it's definitely important to respond to both.
Yeah. So good positive reviews. I think the obvious here, right? We're going to thank them, of course. We're going to celebrate it. What I don't like, I'm going to bet you're going to recommend against it, is if it's the exact same thank you message on every positive review. That's gross.
Right.
Don't do that. So any special tips on positive reviews? I feel like these are the easy ones.
Yeah, so you definitely want to kind of create a few different canned responses, right, that you can do for your positive ones, and just kind of like agree on something, to post. And again, it doesn't have to be the same exact copy and paste situation, but just a feel of it. You don't want to just post thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't do that. Actually, take the time. Like they took the time to let you know that you were doing a good job, right? So take the time to thank them for that,
Yeah.
right? And other people are also going to see that. So this is actually a really good example of a genuinely great thank you response to a positive, review. They don't have to be as long as this one, but at least a sentence saying, "Hey, we appreciate you taking the time. This is why we do what we do."
Yeah. Well, and especially make sure that you're taking these and celebrating them internally with your team. So, reach out. It's great out to John or whoever it was, to Debbie, and say, "Hey, Debbie, we got this nice comment from this family. I bet you Debbie's got a story. I bet she'll tell you, oh, they were fantastic. They'd kind of had a rough time." You can work that into the thank you. But these positive reviews, make sure you are celebrating them. I would love to think everybody on the call is only getting positive reviews, but we know that we are in the auto industry and people love to hate us. So let's talk about the negatives. I'm going to guess, don't get in an argument, don't call someone a liar, but talk about some of just those basics on responding to reviews.
Yeah, so again, you basically want to have kind of like a little game plan of, how you're going to respond to these, basically, yeah, just this is where you definitely want to be authentic and transparent in your communication, right? So sometimes you might get a really long, review. Maybe someone's being kind of combative, or maybe it isn't 100%, truthful in what happened, right? So it is not a place to go back and forth on what actually happened, and maybe what didn't happen, and stuff like that, because other people are going to be reading that, right? That's not just a communication that's happening between you and that customer. You want to try to take that conversation offline by just basically, hey, we're sorry to hear that you were disappointed in your experience. We want to learn more about what happened. Please reach out to so and so at such and such number or email address, and we look forward to discussing this with you, and hopefully turning your experience around, right? So you don't have to be super apologetic, falling over backwards or anything like that, but definitely you just want to like hear them out and try to get that conversation offline.
Yeah. Rob wants to know, and actually I'm going to hold your question for half a minute, so because we're going to get to reputation here next. So as we wrap up social, quick tips. We're not going to read through all of these, but you've touched on all of this in all of the slides that we've covered with all your fantastic examples. Brittany had a quick question. Do you recommend for boosted posts to do video or pictures get better results in your experience?
Either, yeah. I would say definitely video does perform better, but just try them both. If you kind of want to do a mix of the two, using something like maybe Canva to create, a quick little, MP4 video of things, moving around on the screen while you have the text, you can do that, or just using, your phone and posting that, and then just seeing how it performs. So you always want to test things too. Yeah.
For sure. Canva is a great tool. The free tool has a ton of templates that you can use and abuse, and it's pretty easy to get to be semi-proficient in it, I can say from experience. All right, so I do have a few questions I see on reputation, but I want to move us forward, and I will keep them to bring up. So we're doing great on time. We've got about 20 minutes. Give you your time check here on the rest of the content. So I think we all know reputation is important, and that the dealers who have a positive reputation are going to get those clicks, going to get the calls. But just like with everything, if I see below 4 stars, I'm not even giving it a second look, whether it is a thermometer to take care of my 6 children or a car that I'm going to spend $40,000 to $50,000 on these days. So it is more about that reputation, right? And scooching us along to this next slide.
Yeah, and basically, at the end of the day, businesses who have, more reviews are going to be getting more business. So it will be affecting, your bottom line, right? I always like to say that, reputation goes beyond your 5 stars, right? It's, can you be found online, right? What does your social media say about you? What are people saying about you? Do you have good content, on your page, right? So your overall reputation, consists of your online search results, your online reviews, as well as your social media, interactions and mentions, right? So again, you want to basically positively control and manage your reputation online so that you have, a customer base who trusts you and who grows with you, right? And since your reputation consists of basically those 3 things, those are the areas that you definitely, want to control the most with the messaging that you have online.
Let's see. Okay, so one of the questions we've got as you talk about all of these, so I know you're going to talk about them, but what is the best way of getting to ask customers for reviews, specific to Facebook? I know Google, we've talked about in our Google Business Profiles workshop, there is a unique link you can share. Is that the case for Facebook and some of these others? Is there that unique link that gets them straight to the review section?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways, that you can ask for reviews. One is definitely just like asking them, straight up, right? Especially if you're working with someone who has had a really good experience with you, just genuinely asking them, right? Like, hey, we'd really appreciate it, if you, left us a review on, Google or Facebook about, your experience. The other thing you can do is definitely, include some signage in your dealership, maybe like a quick QR code that they can, scan that takes them directly to the page. Another thing that you can also include is, email and also SMS, messaging as well. So if you have anything like that, set up, you can just basically send those out, with a link that's, automatically generated and then getting that out to your customers.
Yeah, another tip is, and I'm typing in the chat here for Michaela, is your ROs. Have something pre-printed on the RO. If it's a QR code, have a page on your website that has those links directly out. Not everybody will use Facebook. Most everybody has Google, but DealerRater and Edmunds, you're going to have to be really strategic with who you send to those pages. Cars.com, if you know it was a Cars.com customer who came from that lead source, make sure you're sending a follow-up email. So I think all of those are really great tips.
Definitely.
The questions all the time. So Rob wanted to know, I promised you I'd get back to you, is, do you recommend a dedicated person or a variety of dealership personnel to respond to reviews? Because I think you're going to have some people focused on sales, some on service. Most times the general manager doesn't have time to work on this. So how do you recommend dealers approach it?
Yeah, so we definitely recommend a dedicated team to help with your reputation management, right? So if you're doing this in-house, it could be, maybe 1 or 2 people who are focused specifically on sales reviews, and then 1 or 2 who are specifically focused on service reviews. You also definitely want to create, a plan of the type of response that is going to be, given and the general, feel, and then communicate that, with the general sales manager, with, the service director, so that everyone's kind of like on the same page as far as, oh, okay, we're going to respond to all of these, negative service reviews, and it's going to include the name and number of the service director, right? If the service director is not cool with that, you got to let them know, right? So
yeah.
just making sure,
Well, and that was, Brittany had a follow-up question on the negative responses is, do you suggest commenting back that someone will be in touch with you or giving that phone number? I think it depends. On the example we saw, it was a gentleman saying, oh, it's my girlfriend. You're not going to have the girlfriend. You can't do that
Right.
stealthy, research.
Yeah.
But if their screen name is a name and you can recognize it, I think that's probably a better approach, is saying, I found your information. I'm going to have somebody reach out to you. That can be powerful.
Yeah, and we have dealers who do that too. That's why you want to be on the same page with what your game plan is in the dealership. Is it going to be, hey, contact us so that we can learn more about this? Or is it going to be a specific person who is going to reach out, to them, and then you can include that in your messaging? So whatever works for your dealership, you're just going to have to, make a decision on that and then come to the same page. But either one works, right? It just depends if you have, the time or the bandwidth to, individually reach out to all those people.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about this, and I kind of answered in the chat, is having, similar to Google, your Google profile, this is a very important stuff that you need your GM, your controller to have access to. We don't want everybody having a password to be able to respond to dealer rater reviews. That can get real messy. So use one email address to control it. You recommend LastPass to store if you have multiple login information. Just don't lose your LastPass login, I think you told me specifically. And understanding the right access. So if you are working for a vendor or working with a vendor, Vanessa, what's that right access level, or any red flags we should look out for there?
Yeah, so I cannot stress enough like how important it is to know what your login information is and know what your passwords are, and to know who has access to that, at your dealership, and also knowing how to give access to that, right? It's basically the keys to your kingdom, you know? So you don't want it to be this esoteric issue of, I don't know who has the password to our Google business profile. It shouldn't be that type of, secretive type of thing. You need to
Right.
know this person, and this person have access to our Google business profile, and they know how to give access to that, right? Because again, if you're delegating this to, an agency, like us, or people, within your company, you're going to have to give access, and we cannot respond if we don't have access to, those profiles. And
Yeah.
that all starts with just knowing what those passwords basically, are.
Yeah, Rick, I know he's with Nissan of Torrance. Nissan has specific role in their dealership's owner loyalty manager. And he says that's the person, best to respond to all reviews. And I agree. If your OEM, if your dealership has a named role like that, make sure they're doing it. But you've mentioned multiple times having the system in place. I think we touched on everything here. It's making sure that your entire team is involved. So yes, you might have that owner loyalty manager, but not all on them to come up with the responses. All the managers and the department heads have to be able to work with them, give them the story, give them the feedback, and learn from it. That's the thing. We're not just responding to the reviews to make them go away. If there's truly a breakdown in process at your store, make sure that you're discussing them as a leadership team and that you're working to correct them. So let's see. So positive reviews, though. All right, let's get out of the negative. Okay, we got more positive. So, we touched on this, short and sweet. Any nuance to the different, is there anything different on responding to a positive dealer rater review than, say, Google or Facebook? Anything there, or is it pretty standard?
No, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty standard. It's still, just making sure that you're responding to them and not doing a, copy and paste situation. You touched on this a little bit earlier, and one of those things is if they do call out, specific names of, your sales team or your service team, definitely share that with those individuals, right? Like they want to know that they're doing a good job, and it really helps them out when they actually hear that from, these customers. And you can also share these on your social media too. Like, don't be afraid to, share these positive posts on your page, whether that's, a screenshot of the positive post, or one that
Yeah.
rework into, some kind of like graphic design, right? That looks nice, because
Yeah.
you don't want to just kind of keep them there. You basically want to, share the love, right? And show people,
Yeah.
how much of a good job that you're actually doing. So yeah, that's definitely one of the really great aspects of the positive reviews. They're not there to ignore. They're not there to just say a quick thank you. Use
Yeah.
them and utilize them to your advantage.
Love it. And fast responses on these. I think there's probably a time frame where if you haven't responded, I don't know if it's a good look. Like, if I see a response 3 months later to a negative review, that's kind of cringe.
Right.
What's the
Yeah.
best practice? Like, nobody's expecting you to be saying they're refreshing, but a day, 2 days? What do you
Yeah,
recommend?
yeah, anywhere between like 1 to 3, business days, I would say, is a good turnaround time to respond to your reviews, especially your negative reviews, right? It's okay if you don't respond to all of your positive reviews, right? That's no one's gonna, hold that against you. It's totally fine. But definitely for the negative ones, anywhere between like a 1 to 3, business day turnaround time. That's why it's really important that you always have eyes on your reviews, whether that's, an agency team or an in-house team.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so best practices on those negative reviews, though, and then I've got a great question from Abby once you've covered this info.
Okay. So yeah, definitely a lot of the stuff, that we discussed before, just, keeping your response, authentic and transparent, not getting, too personal or, emotional, on some of these reviews, but just, a quick like, hey, we're disappointed to hear your experience, right? So just acknowledging them, and then, offering a way for them to either contact you or you contact them. And then, thanking them for their time to basically, leave their review. So it doesn't need to be anything super, super complicated, on there. There's definitely kind of like one-off situations where, maybe a mistake was made or something like that, and you definitely do want to go above and beyond to take care of the customer. You can definitely include that in there, as well. It's okay to kind of get next level with that and include maybe a little bit more of an incentive to call you like, hey, we feel really bad about this, our bad, like we want to give you a free oil change or a free car wash or something like that, like please call our service director, and we want to make this right for you. Um,
Yeah.
so again, you can definitely take them on a case by case basis if you have ones that are a little bit more escalated like that. But definitely, have a game plan and respond in a timely manner.
So I'm going to put this example on the screen, and Abby wants to know, and this is a tough one, so I do not hold you to having an answer. Is it bad, or can you ask customers to take bad reviews off if the situation, or the lack of situation in most cases that never existed, has been resolved and the customer's happy? What's your been experience with this?
I would say no. Sometimes it can be hard to, remove a review, right? One of the things that you can do instead of getting them to actually, remove the review, because then that can also come off as you not appearing authentic, right? And appearing like you're not being completely, truthful in the type of services that you have, right? And we're all human, like we all, make mistakes, right? Whether or not we're business owners or, just regular people. One of the best ways to kind of get around that is to ask them for a positive review, right? So that can either be in a completely new positive review saying, hey, I had this horrible experience with them, but they completely, turned my experience around and now they're the greatest things. Or they can even go back and comment to that negative review and say, you know what, this was my experience, last month, but I actually talked to the service manager and he totally fixed this and now everything is so great and I love them so much, right? So you do want to show that there was a transformation made between the negative experience and the positive experience and the customer being turned around, right? Like you don't want it to just be, we had this great experience, because sometimes that's not always real life, right? Like you have a bad experience somewhere for whatever reasons. And if the business can really turn you around from being like, oh, like I'm like never going to go there again, to basically now being like a cheerleader, that's a really,
Yeah,
really good example of how great your team is at your dealership. So you definitely want to show the
totally.
transformation.
Yeah, I took a service marketing course in grad school years and years ago, and it's a reminder to all of us: you're not responding to the negative review for this one person. You're responding to it for the hundreds of people who read it and want to see how you respond. It's human nature. It's why we look at the TikTok comments. You want to see what people are saying. So you can actually earn more business the way that you respond to it. And if you can get them to come back and comment and say, appreciate you reaching out, everything is well, the next person's going to see how that was handled. So love that. Oops, that was the wrong way. All right. So lots of stuff. Learn from the critics. We're running low on time, so I'm going to get through this. I think we covered everything really well. So everybody's got homework. Make sure you're posting on Facebook today, if you haven't already, a few times this week. Make sure that you've reviewed all the examples Vanessa shared with us, all the reputation. Rob had a question here, and it's real lengthy, so I haven't pushed it through yet. What's the real world dollar value of having a strong reputation practice for a dealership? Like, it can be very expensive to manage this daily and to have that dedicated person. So for that, I always have, a solution for you. Syncro is here to help. As I've mentioned, Vanessa works with dealers every day on their social content, on their reputation management. We have a few different levels of service that we offer to dealers. I know for our GM dealers, Standards for Excellence, SFE enrollment was just extended, I think, through Friday. So if you are an SFE dealer, you do have that option to take a plus up reputation solution. Syncro is one of those providers available to you. And we would love to have Vanessa or Liz or one of our experts working with you to help with your Facebook posts, with your boosted posts, with your reputation. Rob, my answer to how expensive is it is kind of hokey, but how expensive is it if you don't pay attention to it? So if you're interested in learning more about the Syncro solution to help you with this, reach out to me. You can email me at webinarteam@syncro.com, syncrodigital.com. We've got the social rep at syncrodigital.com. You can shout at me in the question section. You can find me on LinkedIn, however you want to do it. Speaking of, tracking me down, who's going to Dallas in January? Put a note in the comments if you're headed to Dallas in January. I'm so excited what the Syncro and Antira team is doing. We have we've rented a speakeasy. We are going to be there with some workshops, with some information. I'm going to be there. Some of your favorites, Colleen Harris will be there, the Google Whisperer, Jason Jewert, Christina Rosenbach. Our entire leadership team will be there, ready to meet dealers. We want to show you our stuff, but we want to have a good time in Dallas. We're really excited. So sign up today for to chat with me, to chat with Colleen. If you want a review of your website, I'll do it. Let me know what you want. We'll get you taken care of. My webinar friends get first dibs. So we are always here to help. All of our resources here, including past webinars. And if you missed last month with Meta, highly recommend it. I know there was a conversation in the chat about how's Marketplace working for everybody. Lots of info on the changes going on with Meta and Facebook there in that webinar. We've got Google updates galore, all the stuff. So we did good. We've got 2 minutes. Vanessa, thank you for being here. I'm going to ask you a few other questions. What are best practices for increasing likes and followers? If you're going to spend all this time and effort, Frank wants to know, we got to have that audience. So any tips there for our dealers on that?
Yeah, so I would say, just definitely engage with the audience that you already have, right? So if you're leaving posts and people are responding to them, respond to something back in the post, right? Or, like a comment that they made. So if you want, more follows and likes yourself, you also have to do, some of that on your end with your audience. It's basically, it's reciprocal, right? establishing that relation. So you want to go back and forth, doing a little bit of both. And also, don't, tie your entire, worth of social media, on likes and follows as well, right? We do call them vanity metrics for, a reason. Just because somebody didn't like your post doesn't mean that it was not viewed, right? So people are, still viewing your content, having an opinion on it, but it doesn't, just because they're not, liking it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any value.
Muted. Absolutely. All right. I think we've got through all the questions. Rob, I'm going to reach out to you more because I love your question. So I'm going to send it through this if everybody wants to read it. Hey, we are taking a break in December from webinars. I've got some travel. So I wish everybody a wonderful end of your year. We'll be back in January. Lots to do, lots going on there. Vanessa, thank you so much for being here with me. I appreciate it. It was great stuff.
Thanks for having me.